What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Just want to start this video by saying thank you guys so much for all the love that you guys have shown for the compact E36 turbo build that we did, the M43 turbo on Jordan's car. What an awesome outcome that was, and yeah, you guys have just been smashing the views on those videos, so thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And today we're back working on one of the favorite cars of the channel, the beautiful Fevo, aka the Budget Evo. If for some reason you're watching this and you're not familiar with this build, this was a CE Lancer. We turned it pretty much into a Budget Evo build, so it's got the Evo kits on it, and then it's got the 4G93 motor in it, but we turboed this motor, put injectors in it. It made, I think at the moment we're about 160 kilowatt, and we started slipping the clutch in it. But today we are upgrading the turbo setup. So if there was one thing that I had to nitpick with this turbo setup, it would be our turbo manifold that we made. Now if you remember, we used the stock headers from the NA motor and we made a turbo manifold out of it. So as you can see here, these headers are completely stock. All we did was chop the stock flange off and weld a T3 flange onto this these headers for our turbo, and it all worked out pretty nicely, which is rad. It works pretty well. You know, the motor spools up nicely. It obviously makes power, and that is awesome, but it's just, when I'm looking at the engine bay, it's just not quite doing it for me in terms of looking at these stock headers. And if there's one thing that I could improve, that would be it. So as you can see here, look how they're nice and big at the start, the runners on the headers, and then they go much smaller. Now this restricts flow to our turbo massively. And then as you can see down here, there's this runner here actually has got a nice big indent in it. I guess they do that from stock just to kind of have it run nicely and kind of clear on the inside here. But again, that's not super good in terms of flow. So what we're going to do today is we're going to upgrade this manifold. Now we're still keeping it within the budget build spec, so I haven't gone out and bought a super expensive manifold or anything like that, but I was at Waz's factory the other day and I saw on the floor that he had a spare SR20 DET turbo manifold, and that is this manifold right here. So as you guys can see, this is for an SR20 DET. It's got a giant thing sticking up here for the external wastegate, and this is what we're going to be using for our new turbo manifold for the Fevo. This usually sits high rise, so it would sit with the turbo mounted upways, but what we're going to do is we're going to have it sitting this way, boom, and look at that in the engine bay. Whoo, it is going to look spicy, but as you can see instantly, the runners aren't going to line up with our stock flange, so we're going to need to do quite a bit of modifying to get this to work. So what we're going to do, we're running an internally gated turbo, internal wastegate. So that is that right there. So we don't have an external wastegate. So we're going to lob this off, this big pipe sticking up, and then I'll weld a nice piece of metal over there to cover that up. We're going to lob this off because obviously the SR20 manifold is no good for us. Then we're going to cut this off, our flange from our stock headers, right? And then we're going to modify these runners so that they meet up with our 4G93 flange. And then, once we figure that out, we'll go ahead and cut the T3 flange off the other manifold, and we're going to figure out our turbo placement. Oh, look at that. Ooh, nice big boy. So we've got the T3 flange welds on here, and if all goes to plan, which I think it will, our turbo is going to be sitting higher in the engine bay, which is going to be nice because my oil drain there's not a lot of angle on my oil drain, so it's quite flat, so I'd love that to be a bit improved. So the turbo is going to be sitting higher. And all in all, it should just sit a lot nicer in the engine bay. Hopefully it sounds a little different as well. I don't mind the sound of this car at the moment, but these tubular manifolds do tend to improve the sound a little bit, so that's going to be pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm pumped, you know. It's budget. Woz gave me that for free, so technically we haven't increased the price of the overall build. But yeah, so first things first, we obviously need to pull our whole turbo setup apart on the Fevo, and then we're going to get cutting. Let's go. Turbo setup's all apart. Takes about 20 minutes to take this whole turbo setup apart. Here's the turbo. She's still looking nice and fresh on the inside. One of the things I did have, there's a bit of oil on the bottom of the turbo. One of the things that I did have is like I said, my oil drain was a little bit flat not enough angle on it. That's my mistake when I was building the setup. And so it would blow a little bit of smoke through the turbo seals on idle sometimes, and that's because the oil will be backing up the oil drain. So I'm pretty sure the turbo itself is still perfectly good to go. I will just obviously have the turbo sitting higher now with our new setup, and so the oil drain won't back up like it was, which should be sweet. But I'm still tossing up whether or not I do go ahead and put the slightly smaller turbo on our setup. I mean, this turbo sounds great, it's doing everything it needs to. I do have another turbo over here, funnily enough, because we are doing a turbo setup on our EG Civic, which I'm freaking pumped about. And our friends maxpeedingrods sent out this beautiful turbo. This is a T25/T28 replacement for an SR20, and we do have that available to us, or at least I may get another one of these, and potentially we could run that on the Fevo. So as you can see, it's slightly smaller, not a whole lot smaller, but I believe it's more the rear housing where it is a bit smaller. And I think that would be, would just give us a little bit earlier boost. But at the same time, I'm about to upgrade the turbo manifold, so that may also give us a little bit earlier boost because of the better flow as well. So it's a bit of a risk putting a smaller turbo on. Because we don't want it to make boost too early with the stock internals, everyone keeps asking me, are the internals stock? Yes, they are. And you don't want to run boost too early, because that's when you will break the stock internals. That's when you'll start bending rods because of early torque and early boost. So I think for now we're going to leave this turbo in the car because it sounds great. It spools up about 3000 RPM, which is pretty much where you want it, but we do have the option to go smaller if we need to. Shout out to our good friends at maxpeedingrods. This turbo is going to be perfect for our 1.5 litre Civic turbo build. And here's a sneak peek at the new motor that I just went and picked up yesterday for it. So we've got EFI, but that's in another video. So here are our turbo manifolds sitting side by side. So just to give you guys a little bit of an overview with this one that we built for the first version 1 of our turbo setup. So it did the job, you know. The whole point was to be a budget turbo setup, and really, I mean, look at it. Easily made the power, so I'm pretty happy with it. But at the same time, here is how much bigger this is than this, so it's just going to look and sound so much better. So first things first, we need to whack the flanges off with our grinder, and then we can kind of see how far off this is from this flange. I'll also just quickly whip this off as well, and we'll see where we get to. After lots of chopping, I've got the flange off the SR20 manifold, and I've got the flange off of our old turbo manifold. RIP, buddy. It's the last we're going to ever need of you. And now it's time to start figuring out how we're going to make it work all together. I really didn't plan this at all. I'm the type of person that kind of sees something and thinks, yep, I can make it work. I'm just going to figure it out along the way. So that's what we're going to do. So here is how they line up at the moment. So the two middle runners aren't too bad. There's a bit of a gap, so I'm going to have to shift those a little bit, that's fine. But the outside runners, as you can see right here, there's quite a bit of gap, so I'm going to have to angle those in, which shouldn't be too hard. I'm just going to do it the only way that I can kind of see in my brain to do it, which is kind of chopping and angling in. But I think we're kind of going to definitely be able to make it work, which is cool. So I'm going to start chopping, angling these in, getting them all kind of right on the runners, and then we'll tack it up and kind of fit it to the car and see how the actual turbo itself is going to kind of line up with everything as well, because basically we're changing the position of the whole turbo, so it's quite a mission of a job. And of course, once it's all done, I want to kind of wire wheel it as well and make it look a bit nicer. So the heat paint tends to come off pretty easily, so I don't think I'll paint it, but I'll try and see if we can't wire wheel it and make it look all pretty. But yeah, so next up, cutting and repositioning. Alright, skip forward with a lot of grinding and whatnot. I didn't film the grinding because it's boring as hell, but I've chopped her up to the point where I've managed to get it all to fit pretty nicely. It's kind of hard for me to do it with one hand here, but it was pretty easy, if I'm honest. So a couple of wee gaps to fill with some metal that I've got spare, which is fine, and re-weld a couple of things, but it all came together pretty easily. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tack weld it up. so the manifold's kind of all together, and I'll just double check everything. Obviously I've got a welder plate in the side here, ignore that. And then we can test fit it and kind of see how it's all going to look, but it's freaking pumped on it so far, so hopefully we can get it looking super pretty once it's all finished, but yeah. So she's tacked on. Look at that, guys. Not bad, huh? So just gonna have a quick look and see how it fits up. Literally have not fitted it up at all, so it could be terrible, but let's have a look. Hey! Oh, yes. Alright. So that, for one, looks fantastic. Oh, so much cooler. It clears everything very nicely, so that's cool, but in the second thing now I have to just quickly grab the turbo and hold it up and kind of see if it's going to work, but I think it is, which is rad, so yeah, I'm all about that right now. That just improves the look of the engine base so much, it makes it look badass. I don't think you guys can see that very well, but it kind of sits about here, but I think I'm going to just chop the tacks off and quickly flip the manifold over and see what it looks like running at top mount. So that does look gangster like this though, so I don't mind it. But we'll flip it around and see what it looks like running top mount. Alright, so here it is in the top mount configuration, and so the turbo would effectively like go and be up top in the top mount configuration. Kind of like that, but obviously not quite like that. But I don't like that near as much as the other configuration, so we're going to switch back. This is the new turbo from maxpeedingrods they sent me for the Civic, but I think I'm going to put it on the Evo. And also it fits a bit nicer with this new manifold and the other configuration that we had. So it's going to delay things a little bit because I need to get a T2 flange ordered, because this is not T3, it's T2. But I think just overall it's going to give us a better result. So yeah, we're going to go ahead. We're going to use this turbo now. So she's getting a new turbo and a new turbo manifold. But it's just going to improve, I think, this car dramatically. So I'll go ahead, pull this off, cut the tacks off again, flip it around, and then I'm going to start welding this thing up permanently, so that we can go ahead and kind of start mucking around with how we're going to fit up the actual turbo itself. Welded up. I quickly just hit it a tiny bit with a wire wheel, because I wanted to see if it could look any good if we wire brush it. So quickly I'm going to go over the whole thing with a wire brush, and we're going to mop fit it to the car. But I'm freaking over the moon with that. I mean, you couldn't do it any better. Like, it actually has come up super nice, so I'm stoked with that. It should be a massive improvement for the Evo. But yeah, let's smash out this wire wheel and chuck her on. Alright, so I've gone ahead and fitted the manifold up. It looks fantastic. And to be honest, I'm kind of over the moon with how easy and well the whole thing came together. Obviously we're not there yet, the turbo's not mounted and all that stuff, but it looks pretty freaking sick in there. I've still got a lot of wire wheeling to do to kind of get it looking super nice, but I'll spend that time off camera doing that. But I think it looks freaking fantastic. I think once I wire wheel it and then we run it up and stuff on the dyno, I think this is going to get a bit of color into it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but nonetheless, definitely an improvement on our old setup. Unfortunately, I can't continue on tonight because we need a T2 flange for the turbo manifold to weld it on, because the new turbo we're using is a T2 flanged turbo. But we are using the new turbo and I'm super pumped about this. The link is in the description for this turbo. It's maxpeedingrods, like upper class turbo, like level up. It's got the nice golden wheel in there. I'm pretty sure it's ball bearing as well, so it definitely should do a fantastic job in the Evo. And I'm going to keep the other maxpeedingrods turbo for perhaps a later project. So we'll wrap this up tonight, but it's going to be the same video. I'll grab a T2 flange and hopefully we can get all the turbo and stuff mounted. Not sure if we'll get it running in this video, but yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. T2 flange, get the turbo on, it's going to be sick. Until then. And we are back. What is up? Another day, the sun is out. We're working on the Fevo. It's just good vibes all around here right now. Been driving around today, managed to get all the parts that we needed, which is freaking amazing. So we have our dump pipe flange, we have our T2 turbo flange, which goes boop, right there. We have all the gaskets that we need. Funnily enough, this is a Nissan SR20 DET gasket kit. It's funny actually, we're putting all SR parts on our car. SR turbo manifold, SR turbo, SR gaskets. So this thing's kind of like a hybrid SR motor. Apart from it's not going to do all the blowing up things, which is probably, hopefully, a good thing. So actually one thing I was not able to purchase because they didn't have any in stock was this oil feed line for the turbo, the fitting that goes right here in the turbo. So, because I couldn't buy one, I found a banjo bolt that has the same thread and I cut the head off it. So we've got the thread here, it's got a nice little hole in it for the oil restrictor for the turbo. And then I found another kind of fitting in my bolt box that has the right fitting for the line on the other side. So cut them and boom, we'll just weld them together. Make sure that they, that it has the hole going all the way through afterwards, and then that's our fitting made. Sometimes you have to be innovative if you want to get things done. So now we are into the phase where we get to tack the flange on for the turbo manifold and test fit the turbo and make sure everything is going to fit up all nicely. By the way guys, a bunch of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, but a bunch of you guys watch the videos. If you want to hit the subscribe button, it really helps out and just helps drive the channel. The channel is killing it at the moment with all the subs and views coming in, so very stoked. I appreciate the support as always, so hit that button and yeah, let's keep going on the Fevo. Alright, so we have our turbo just mocked up onto the manifold now, so I'm going to test fit this in the car. It was kind of hard to film while I was kind of tacking the manifold, the flange on, but all seems alright so far. So yeah, test fit time, fingers crossed. This never usually goes perfect the first time, but here we go. Test fit number one. Look how freaking cool that looks. Gosh, so much nicer, and it's even going to probably work with our old intake pipe on the front of the turbo, which is nice. It's going to sit pretty much in the same position, and the bonnet scoop right here actually provides cold air to the intake, which is nice. So the only thing is we're just super tight right here with our dump pipe down the back, but these lines here, you can manipulate them quite a bit, so I should be able to get at least a bit more room in there. But it's not so tight that it won't work, I don't think. Don't quote me on that. But so far guys, so freaking good. God dang, that looks good. Whoo. So I got a little bit carried away. Sometimes I do this. Didn't film, but I just whipped up a quick downpipe for the turbo to make sure everything's going to fit nicely. And there it is right there. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm really enjoying playing this pretend fabricator role, but the downpipe's right there. All looks freaking rad. Test fitted the oil line with the fitting that I welded up quickly. That's all looking good. We've got to rotate the compressor housing so it points downwards because that's where our intercooler piping is going to run. But this setup is going to be so freaking cool and just such a massive upgrade. I'm going to pull the turbo manifold off now and finish welding the whole thing, including this giant hole where the external wastegate used to be, and then pretty much we can start going ahead and putting everything back together so that we can have it all running in this one video just for you guys. Much welding is the finished product. I am so pumped on this. I actually really enjoyed this whole process of putting this together. It looks awesome. Yeah, Mikey. welded a plate over where the wastegate used to be. Ignore the welds, I'm still not the best welder in the world, but actually, to be honest, I'm really happy with this though. Like, it looks like a sick wee piece. Was an SR20 manifold. We made it work. Now it is a 4G93 turbo manifold. Nice new turbo. How good is that, guys? So now we get to fit it up for the final time. So we'll bolt the turbo to the manifold with the new gasket. I'm lost for words. I'm so happy with this. So I didn't imagine that it would turn out this good, so I'm freaking pumped. Hell yeah. Everywhere. This has been a freaking massive job, but ladies and gentlemen, I think we're done. Like, even the intake pipe that we had before still works, so we'll bolt it up nicely. It actually sits nice and further backwards, which is sweet, so right where that intake is on the bonnet. Oh my god. Alright, so first start time, everything looks sweet, let's give it a go. No time like the present, I guess. Alright, so I'm a bit of an idiot. And I was mucking around trying to figure out why there was an exhaust leak, and I hate exhaust leak. Above all else, I hate the noise of an exhaust leak. So I tried to figure it out, couldn't figure it out. And then I realized, because filming and stuff for YouTube, you always just kind of miss stuff. And it turns out I didn't weld like halfway around a whole weld on the V-band flange for the joiner for the turbo. So I fixed that, that's all good, and it sounds freaking beautiful. But one thing that was really unexpected that has happened just from running it is the manifold now looks like this. Whoo-wee. It's got like a blue tinge to it. So I don't know what that means it's made of. By the way, Maddie's here. Hi, Matt.
How are we?
Good. We're going to do stuff on this thing, but right now we're doing stuff on this thing.
I don't think we'll get started on that car.
I know, this thing's sick. What do you think?
It looks mad.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm keen as. We're going to go for a drive?
You know what? I'm not going to show them our drive now.
Just in case anything goes wrong.
Well, it's nighttime outside. It sucks for filming, so I'm going to take these guys for a drive tomorrow. For me and you are going to go for a drive.
We're going for a drive.
Hell yeah, we're going for a drive. But I'm just over the moon with the setup, and this is the old one and this is a new one. Whew. You versus the guy she told you not to worry about right there, son. Oh, that's so good. I'm freaking pumped. I'll see you guys in the morning. This has been a freaking massive video, but you deserve it. I'll see you in the morning for a drive, but right now we're gonna go, so bye. Daytime, yeah. All right, so it is another day, and we can finally take the Fevo for its first test drive. Well, not first test drive, me and Matt to take it for a drive the other night, but I can take you guys for a drive in it. I've got the GoPro set up. It's really windy outside, hence the fact that I'm filming this in here right now. We're gonna go jump in the Fevo. We're gonna take it for a wee drive and see how this new setup goes. It sounds phenomenal. Woo-wee. Let's go. Alrighty, so this thing definitely needs a wheel alignment. So it does feel a little bit dodgy under acceleration, just because front wheel drive and a bad wheel alignment means like under boost it'll pull a little bit to the left or right. With the torque steer it just becomes so much more obvious with a bad alignment. So just gonna let the car get to temperature before we do any boost pulls. Hope you guys are enjoying the GoPro setup we've got going on here, trying to put in a little extra effort for you guys. Also bearing in mind that the clutch is still slipping in this car, which you guys will hear once we get it under boost. This thing is so cool. Woo. I've slowly been buttoning things up in this car, and it really does, it's really starting to feel a lot tighter to drive, which is nice. It's starting to feel more Evo-like, doesn't feel like a janky Lancer anymore. Alright, time to get a little bit of juice. Listen to that clutch slip. Woo! It sounds so good now though. New turbo, so much more responsive. That is just fantastic. Woo! How can you not smile driving this car, man? That is so good. Exhaust note now is just so much, it's so much deeper. It doesn't have that annoying Lancer rasp that it had before with those stock headers as a turbo setup. So I've actually been driving the car around yesterday and today as a daily, now that it's all good back together and on the road, and it just has not missed a beat at all with this new setup. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that ride along in the Fevo with me. The car feels and sounds phenomenal. I'm over the moon with it. That setup cost me not much money because I found that SR manifold on the floor and was his factory. Max Speedingrods sent us out the turbo, and that turbo feels fantastic. The link is in the description if you want to take a look at it. You can use my code MikeLake, grab yourself 10% off. But the turbo sounds phenomenal, feels phenomenal, and the whole setup in general is just freaking awesome. So in this day and age, cars are getting so freaking expensive. It's almost out of a lot of people's price range. To buy the cars like your 180 SXs, your Skylines, your Chasers, your Evos and all that stuff. So these builds are all about finding a way to build something that is equally as awesome. You know, has the turbo noises, feels fantastic, drives great, but at an affordable price. I would say I'm about 7 grand deep into the Fevo at the moment, and that car is freaking, for 7 grand, is amazing. Of course, I'm not taking my own time into account. I mean, for me, it's a massive enjoyment building these cars, so I don't really take my time into account. And I do get a lot of people reaching out to me and saying, hey, I really want to do what you do, but I don't have the skills. I never had the skills either. It's all about just picking up the welder, giving it a go, and slowly learning as you do it. It's a freaking lot of fun, so I highly recommend it if you're on the fence about doing something like that. But that is the end of this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will have another Fevo video out on Wednesday. We're fitting some more parts to it. That car is getting a lot of love. I'm stoked about that. So tune in on Wednesday, watch that video, hit the like button, and freaking subscribe if you haven't already to the channel. Thank you to all the new subscribers that have dialed in the last month. It's freaking amazing. And just thank you to everyone that's watching this video right now. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers, guys. Peace. Bye. You versus the guy she told you not to worry about right there, son.